Perhaps the supreme confirmation that Jesus was and is the Son of God is the resurrection from the dead. That Jesus Christ died and afterward rose from the dead is both the central doctrine of Christian theology and the major fact in defense of its teachings. There are three main historical facts that support the resurrection. Number one, the empty tomb. Okay. Number two, the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus. And number three, the spread of the Christian faith. So the empty tomb, the post-resurrection appearances of Jesus, and the spread of the Christian faith are all historically true. So we can look back in history and see all of that. Skeptics sometimes object, and they come up with really lame responses to those historical facts. So sometimes skeptics say, well, maybe the disciples stole the body, or maybe the women went to the wrong tomb. I couldn't even get through saying that one without laughing. Or maybe Jesus wasn't really dead. Yeah, so somehow he survived the ordeal on the cross. Or everybody was hallucinating. I'll just say that these objections are not convincing. You will recall that the disciples feared for their lives after the crucifixion. There was nothing to be gained by stealing the body. Imagine, right? So the master has been killed, right? His followers, more than likely are going to get killed. What is there to be gained by stealing the body? Nothing. If Jesus was in fact dead, right, then their hopes for a triumphant Messiah had been crushed, right? So Jesus' death without a resurrection kills everything. It kills the movement, right? And then you would have to have James and Paul even joining the conspiracy, right? Because Paul now is a later convert, right? Remember, Elder Owen said that the conversion of Paul was one of the main reasons why he embraced Christianity. Because here you have someone who completely does a 180, right? So Paul would have to be in on this conspiracy. So it's then ludicrous then to say that the body was stolen. I won't even address the issue of the women going to the wrong tomb. Come on. Now, Jesus was not dead. Now, okay. Now, we know that Jesus was crucified because the Romans were very thorough at executing criminals. Very thorough. Furthermore, even non-Christian sources, like Josephus, he was a Jewish historian, and Tacitus, who was a Roman historian, mentioned the crucifixion of Jesus. And so you can't escape the historicity of his crucifixion. And then, so not really dead. So how would a weakened Jesus move the stone, right? And then even if that were possible, then he appears to the disciples and somehow they think that he's the risen Christ, right? He's bloodied, he's emaciated, barely alive, and it's, he's risen. Please. So that doesn't hold either. And then hallucinations. That's pseudoscience to make that type of claim. There's never been a recorded case in human history of a mass hallucination of 500 plus individuals. A hallucination is something that happens to a single human mind, right? Maybe you can convince somebody else of some reality that's not true, but 500 or more people are not going to hallucinate. Now, let's say that even if it were possible that there was a hallucination, right, which is ludicrous, but then the production of a body then, right, would have dispelled the myth entirely, right? So let's say, so he really did die, and then 500 people hallucinated seeing the risen Lord, right? But then all you had to do was produce the body, and that crushes that myth. You see, so that's why the empty tomb, Jesus' post-resurrection appearances, and the spread of the Christian faith finally, nothing but a risen Lord, right, can explain why Christianity just took off, right, under persecution. I'm teaching church history right now as we speak. I'm teaching it at Fuller Seminary. And one of the issues that we're looking at in the class is the early persecution of Christians. And so, from Nero on, through the late, 2nd, 3rd century, you have persecution of Christians, some kind of local, and then some empire-wide. So there's nothing that would explain the explosion of growth other than a risen Lord. It's the only thing that would sustain the faith of the Christians, right? Being thrown to lions, being burned at the stake. Nero was demon-possessed. It was under Nero that Peter and Paul lost their lives. And so what could explain it, right? Other than a risen Lord. If Paul, Paul was the greatest opponent of Christians, right? There's no explanation for why he would switch the other way, other than he encountered the living Christ. That's the only explanation, and so that encounter. And all of the different encounters are historical facts that lend credence to the truth of the Gospels. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, apostles would not have been so bold in their proclamation, right? They're bold. We don't care what you're going to say. We're going to preach in that name, right? How did they go from being just total cowards to that kind of braveness, right? Because they saw the risen Lord, right? James, Jesus' own half-brother, didn't even believe in him in his lifetime. Yeah, you see. So it was apparently a post-resurrection appearance of Jesus to him that convinced him. And so the empty tomb, right, historical fact. The post-resurrection appearances, a historical fact, and the spread of Christianity certainly is a historical fact that we can all look back on. And all of these support the resurrection. Okay, so we can confidently conclude that Jesus did indeed rise from the dead and was who he claimed to be.